full of love, kindness, and cute as a bun. Say hello to man's best friend, the dog. Unlike cats, dogs vary greatly in size and appearance, depending on their breed. But one interesting thing to note is that, biologically, all dogs are part of the same species, Canis lupus. So, despite the smallest dog breed, the Chihuahua, being a third of the size of the world's largest dog breed, the Great Dane, the two breeds are both members of Canis lupus. Now, normally, creatures classified as being part of the same species evolve together. But dogs are quite unique in that different members of the same species have adapted to their environments, much like humans. A number of dog breeds can be traced back to breeding during the Victorian era, 200 years ago. But dogs have healed alongside humans long before that. You may have heard that thousands of years ago, dogs were mummified and buried in royal tombs in Egypt, and a 9,000-year-old cave painting discovered in Shwaymis, Saudi Arabia back in 2017 clearly displays the form of a dog joining humans on a hunt. There's even a drawing of dogs hunting a lion. But then, when and how did humans befriend dogs? Well, that's just what we're going to look into today. Our story begins in the year 1978. Archaeologist Professor Simon Davies discovered the remains of a dog and a person buried together in Israel. The fossils were found to be 12,000 years old. In other words, dogs, like most livestock, were domesticated around the time humans began farming. We're still discovering evidence to support this claim even now. For example, back in 2011, an anthropologist named Dr. Robert discovered the remains of a dog buried with a human 9,000 years ago in central Russia. Judging from the fact that the burial site contained a spoon, the human skull was wedged between the dog's legs and ribs, and the fact that the dog's fossil bore traces of a healed wound, we can guess that humans and dogs have been buddies since around 10,000 years ago. However, in that same year, 2011, the results of another paper turned this idea completely on its head. A canine fossil discovered by Dr. Nikolai in the Siberian Altai Mountains was found to be 33,000 years old via carbon dating isotope analysis. Not only that, but Dr. Laura of Stony Brook University analyzed the mutation rate of mitochondrial DNA extracted from the bones of Neolithic dogs, mapping out their history in 2017. It turned out that the domestication of dogs may date back as far as 20,000 to 40,000 years. Thanks to these molecular biological studies, it's more widely recognized that dogs may have been with humans since the Paleolithic, or even our hunter-gatherer days. Of course, there is evidence against this, so the dog domestication debate goes on. But one thing scientists don't disagree about is that dogs were domesticated from gray wolves, or earlier wolf ancestors. In fact, dogs and wolves are genetically different by only 0.04% and can interbreed to produce fertile offspring. So this may come as a surprise, but dogs and wolves are biologically classified as being part of the same species. Nevertheless, the two are distinctly different in appearance and behavior. Dogs are smaller than wolves, have different coat colors, shorter jaw lines, and smaller brain size. The area of their brains associated with alertness and tension in particular are smaller than that of wolves. In addition, dogs today, unlike wolves, show a high activity of starch or oligosaccharide decomposition enzyme genes, as well as genes that help glucose absorption. This demonstrates how dogs, apart from wolves, who have lived together with humans, have adapted well to consuming grains, a dietary staple of humans. Well then, before we began farming and raising livestock, how did wolves come to join mankind and become dogs? We have a few hypotheses, the first of which is the Pinocchio hypothesis. Here's what it entails. About 40,000 years ago, humans likely chased away or killed wolves roaming around tribal settlements. However, we may have decided at some point to raise orphaned or abandoned wolf cubs rather than kill them. At first, some wolves were hostile towards humans, so people may have killed them and used their fur to make clothes. Only those that weren't hostile were kept and bred. And as this process was repeated over hundreds, then thousands of generations, wolves gradually became more friendly towards us. That is, they became dogs. The crux of this hypothesis is that humans artificially tamed wolves. However, because it is very difficult for wolf cubs to socialize with humans after just 20 days of age, the Pinocchio hypothesis has not been widely accepted. It would have been quite difficult for humans to begin the domestication process this way. In 2001, however, Professor Coppinger came out with the garbage heap hypothesis, in some ways the opposite to the Pinocchio hypothesis. He argued that humans did not intentionally domesticate wolves, but rather, wolves came near human settlements to eat our leftovers, and in the process, wolves themselves were tamed by humans. You may be wondering how plausible it would be for wolves, who are wary of people to the point of running away from them while eating, could possibly grow close to us like this. But Will Walker, a wolf keeper at the Bristol Zoo in the UK, says that wolves are as curious as they are wary, leaving a good chance that they would gather around humans. In a similar vein, German evolutionary biologist Joseph Reichholf also wrote in his book Evolution that 30,000 to 40,000 years ago, wolves followed humans as they migrated from one place to another to feed upon their leftovers, gradually bringing them closer to humans. If the human groups had moved too often, then there may not have been enough time for the wolves to follow and adjust to their new environment. Luckily, as human populations grew, so did the lengths of their stay. Wild wolves had plenty of time to grow closer to humans. Professor Alice Roberts also adds that it is highly likely that wolves were more active in their search for human settlements because prey was extremely scarce during the peak of the last ice age 20,000 years ago. Of course, the alliance between wolves and humans began to forge through a history of precariousness and unease. However, natural selection favored the wolves who largely stopped hunting other animals, waited patiently for human leftovers, and understood human behavior. These wolves eventually joined the humans, becoming the typical dog. The wolves would howl to warn against wild animals, and then defend against pests and predators who would disrupt the humans' agricultural activities. While demonstrating their prowess, the alliance between dogs and humans, which was initially unstable, blossomed into the partnership we see today. Professor Shipman went one step further from simple symbiosis and made a rather unique claim that mankind was able to outlast the Neanderthals thanks to dogs. Hunting with dogs dramatically increased the humans' chances of completing a hunt successfully. This naturally led to the expansion of human groups, which increased competition for the limited resources that the Neanderthals needed as well. In the end, this may have contributed to their eventual extinction. Regardless of whether this theory is true or not, it is a prime example of how vital dogs are to humans. At the end of the day, however, we still lack a consensus concerning the exact time and place wolves were domesticated to become dogs. But what we do know for certain is that dogs today are man's best friends for a reason, and our friendship is older than we can imagine. Did you enjoy exploring the science and history behind one of our most beloved pets? Science is a window to the world, and this has been Science Dream. Thank you.